All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Carrie McMullen. She is the associate executive director here, and hey, welcome to all of you. I'm glad you're here. For those of you joining us online, whatever state you're in, living room, sober living home, treatment center, wherever you are, we're glad you're here, glad you're part of this community. And to give you a reminder, this community is for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing we don't do here in this community. You can shout it out on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame, but Carrie is going to tell you some things coming up that you might want to know about.
I was trying to get Ryan to get his notes up, but he did not listen to me, but that's okay. I'm going to do this from memory. So first, I would like to start with the welcome bags. So if you are new here tonight, we are glad that you're here, and we would love to get the chance to get to know you. Outside of these doors after service, you can find a volunteer or one of us, and we'd love to give you this bag. There's inside some fresh roasted Wagon coffee, thanks to the beautiful Tammy Candidate and her women at Wagon Coffee, as well as some other, which we'll get to in celebrations too. We're all very, very fortunate for Tammy Candidate. Some free swag, as well as our Connect cards to get signed up for our newsletter, so you'll stay connected for all of the different events we have. Get our weekly newsletter so you know who our guest storytellers are going to be each week. It's a wonderful way just to kind of get to know what we do around here. Second is going...
Do you need it up?
No, I'm going to remember
How about
it.
Faith in Blue?
Second is Faith in Blue. I can just look at the screen. So next Monday, so this coming Monday, in the cafe from 10 a.m. to noon, we're going to have a positive experience with our local law enforcement. I know some of us may have not had the best experience with the law enforcement in the past.
By show of hands. No, just kidding.
I'm just saying, this gives us an opportunity to have a healing experience, to know that they are just people too, that we're trying to open up the conversation of just connection over a cup of coffee. It's nothing scary. It's just going to be a pleasant, have some coffee with us in the cafe, get to know them on a personal level.
Yeah. And they're very supportive of what we do here. They love this community, love the mission.
And they're really nice people.
Yeah.
If you don't get on the bad side of them.
Don't break the law while you're here that day. That's our only request.
Next, we have this next Saturday coming up, where it's the Saturday before Halloween, and we are going to do a candy crawl in between services. So right before this service, it's going to be from 6:15 to 6:45. Come get your fill of candies. Costumes are encouraged.
Yes. Bring your kids, get them all hopped up on sugar right before bedtime. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and then just bring them to the 7 p.m. service, and Ryan can talk through them. So it'll be wonderful.
I'll try my best.
Next, we have coming up, so starting in November, if any of you guys were here for our Enneagram study, this is led by Shani Jones, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Shani. Yep.
Shani. So she is doing an Enneagram study that is correlated to the 12 steps of recovery. So this book up here, we don't actually have the book today. That was kind of my fault, so I apologize. But we will get you that copy. Also in the newsletter, you had the link to buy it in Amazon. But it's a great way to explore the Enneagram through the text of the 12 steps, or the context of the 12 steps, I should say. It's very informative. It's going to be every Saturday. It's super informal. So if you don't read, that's okay too. If you just want, I don't mean like you don't know how to read, but like if you don't read the assignment, you can just come anyway. Just come and learn. It's a great way to be in community. It's from 3:30 to 5 p.m. in the meditation room. They do ask that you register just so they know how many people are coming. And that is on the flyer, I believe. It is not on the flyer, but it's on the newsletter and in social media. And that is all. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Carrie. All right, y'all, the way we get started here on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We lift up the good stuff. We start with the good. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or birthday or any new thing that you're experiencing in your life, your recovery. We celebrate it all here. If you're online during this 3 minutes, just drop your celebrations in the comments, the comment section on Facebook or YouTube. We'll celebrate with you there. For those of you in the house, just raise up your hand, give us the good news, and Colby has a mic on this side, Gary has a mic on this side, and we'll take 3 minutes for this. This time is yours.
I want to say congratulations to Kira for 5 years. Congratulations, it's a big deal.
Kira, 5 years sober. Way to go.
My name's Jim. I'm celebrating 50 years of sobriety.
50 years, 5-0.
5-0.
50 years of sobriety. Way to go, Jim. Congratulations. That's a long time. If he
I'm
can do it, we can
Tammy,
do it.
and Wagon Coffee celebrated 4 years this past Sunday.
Way to go, Wagon Coffee, the best coffee in town. Happy birthday, Wagon.
Hi, my name is Lisa, and my girl Nikki over here just got 4 years.
All right, way to go, Nikki.
She was shy.
Happy 4 years. Congratulations.
Hi, my name's Robin, and I just celebrated 10 months of sobriety on October 13th.
Way to go, Robin. Congratulations.
I'm Mac, and in 2 days I'll have 3 weeks.
All right, man. Happy 3 weeks in 2 days. Glad you're here.
My name's Dale. I have 105 days today.
105 days. Congratulations, dude.
My name's Richard. I got 30 days today. I'm at Palmer Lake Recovery.
All right, happy 30 days.
I'm Charlie. I have 359 days sober.
359. Way to go, Charlie. Good to see you tonight.
My name's Chance. My wife and I celebrated 2 years married yesterday.
All right, happy anniversary, Katie and Chance.
My name is Brandon. I have 65 days today.
All right, way to go, Brandon. Anyone else? We got 30 seconds left. Here we go. Cy. Second row, Cy.
Yeah, I'm Cy. So I am celebrating this week. I just signed on Thursday a new contract with my company as we keep growing to a position that we just developed for community coordinator.
All right.
So that we can hopefully reach other communities and as the company grows, we reach more people in recovery. So thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Congratulations, man. Let's celebrate that.
My name is Josie, and I have 873 days off of fentanyl.
All right, way to go, Josie. 873 off the fentanyl. All right, thank you, Gary and Colby. Tammy Canada is going to join me up here, I believe. Thanks, man, for being of service tonight. Appreciate you. All right, Tammy, you want to join with our online community?
I do. Hi,
Okay.
guys.
You want to take the first one?
I do.
Okay, why don't you take the first one?
Jessica says, recently added AA to my recovery toolbox. Digging it so far.
Way to go, Jessica. Yeah, we'll celebrate that. It's a good tool to have. Martha says, enjoying a wonderful visit with Dara. Yes, we knew Dara was heading out there this weekend.
Yep.
Visit with Dara and showing her our new home, history, water, food. We're doing it all.
Fun.
Well, yeah, that sounds fun. Way to go, Martha. We'll celebrate that. Have a good time.
Just send her back, okay?
What's that?
Just send her back.
Yeah, send her back.
Yeah.
Don't keep her forever.
Kai says, congratulations, everyone. Celebrating 582 days free of fentanyl.
Way to go,
Awesome,
Kai. 580 days free of fentanyl. Yeah, we had 873, was it? And then 583? 582? Yeah, 50 years and then lots of like 30 days and 20 days and 10 months and yeah,
Awesome.
all kinds of celebrations.
5 years. Kira, awesome.
And thank you, Tammy, for being up here. We'll see you in just a little bit. All right, y'all. Well, we are, every year we do this, and Free is finally at a point, like we've been around long enough. It's not like we're old, but we're not infants anymore. So I can use words like annual. We do this annually, this series, every year. This is like the third year now. We do the series called What We Stand For. And it started last week with authenticity. Then we went to recovery. Then no shame, new life. Here's the video.
We created Free because someone had to stand for the addicts and loved ones of addicts who were suffering in silence, for the spiritual refugees who didn't have a place of belonging. A traditional church model doesn't create space for the conversations we know have to be had. Free is standing with those who are barely hanging on, who are longing for something new. Free is bridging the gap between spirituality and recovery. In this place, God meets us exactly where we are. This is what we stand for.
You know, I was thinking this week, since this is like the third year we've done this series, what do we say about recovery? Like, what is there left to say about it? Because I say that because it's not like recovery here is just a chapter in Free's book. Like, recovery is the book, and so what do we say? How do we talk about it? I landed on this question this week. What's recovery like? You know, when we started Free back in June, summer of 2018, in our backyard, one of the first things Tammy and I did together, we sat in our living room and we put together a little one-page vision document. And by August of that summer, so just a couple of months later, well, we had to get our stuff together because we were starting to grow, and we needed to get a business plan together because we were asking people for support and money. And so we had to get really clear about our mission and vision. We had to get really clear about how we intended to grow. We had to do adult things like put together a budget, and that document that was one page was now 3 pages. And y'all, I'm so glad we kept this because I accidentally stumbled upon this 3-page document this week. I was looking for another document on my iPad, and this one popped up, and I spent some time reading through this 6-year-old document. I'm so glad I have it. And I remember when we were putting this together, I met with a friend of mine for coffee, and she said, "Ryan, you know what you should include in that document?" She said, "You should envision what you think the vibe of the community and the space will be." And I was like, whoa. We don't even have space yet. We're in our backyard. And there's like 12 of us, so I'm not sure how to do that. She said, no. You're going to have space, and there's going to be more people, and don't overthink it. Just like do simple bullet points. Here's 2 of the bullet points we added to that section that's in the vision document that started in 2018. The first one. We say no to shame and yes to being free. Y'all, I totally forgot. This was in like the founding documents. This was in the original document that we don't do shame. And the second one, this is a BS-free zone. And people ask me all the time, well, why is it important to have a bullshit-free zone? What does that even mean? Well, you have to understand, when we started Free, I was just over 5 years sober, and my life was being formed and transformed by these BS-free zones that I was experiencing and encountering in the rooms of recovery. You know, I got sober. For the first 6 months, when I got sober, I would drive from Highlands Ranch, where we still live. I would drive from Highlands Ranch, that's also where I worked at the time, and I would drive all the way down to this area to a club down the street called AWOL. I would drive several times a week, and I got sober at that 2 o'clock meeting. And I didn't do it because it was convenient. I didn't do it because it was close to home or close to where I worked. The truth is, I did it because I was so terrified that people would see me. And I did not want to be seen. I was so terrified if I went to a meeting in Highlands Ranch, well, then my cover would be blown. After that 6 months, well, convenience became a bit more valuable to me. We had just had our second child. And so I started attending a 12-step meeting on mornings in the basement of the church where I was serving as a pastor. And I owe a lot to those people. They walked with me, became my home group for several years. They loved me when I didn't know how to love myself. They journeyed with me. I'll never forget one of my first meetings there. A woman came up to me. It was right before the meeting, like 10 minutes before the meeting. I got there early, and she came up to me. She had this huge smile, and she said, "I knew it." And I said, "You knew what?" And she said, "I just knew." Now, she was in this meeting, but she was also a woman who attended church upstairs. She was in the congregation. She said, "I knew you were in recovery." And I said, "How'd you know that?" She said, "I could just tell with your sermons." And I'm like, I didn't want anyone to know this. My goal in recovery was for no one ever find out. Like, my mission was to keep this thing quiet. I never had any intention of doing this stuff here, being public with my sobriety, my recovery. And do you know, she asked me then, she said, "How long have you been sober?" And I freaked out. I wanted to say everything in my body wanted to say, "Well, I've been sober for 30 years, which is a problem because I was only 30 years old at the time. And I decided to be honest with her. I said, "Well, I just celebrated 6 months last week." And I was so freaked out. I thought my cover was blown, and I knew it was bound to happen. I was so freaked out. She was going to put shame on me. And do you know what she didn't do? She didn't treat me differently or weird. In fact, everyone in that group, they did not treat me as a pastor. When I was with them, they treated me as a fellow alcoholic in recovery. And her smile got even bigger. And you know what she said? I'll never forget. She said, "Recovery, it's life-changing, isn't it?" Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. It's life-changing. And see, when I went into the rooms of recovery, I noticed early on, man, these people, they don't have anything left to pretend that everything is fine. And I was one of them. And I didn't have anything left to pretend that it was all fine. And I couldn't even have the energy to put on the mask anymore. I couldn't wear that thing. I was exhausted. I could not pretend anymore. And if you've been there, you know that this is real freedom. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but it is indeed real freedom. And that meeting, it was in the basement of the church where I was serving as a pastor. And then I'd go upstairs. And I want to tell you something, and I don't want to be misunderstood on this one. I'm not knocking it. In fact, I would tell you, I've learned over time, there is nothing noble about knocking the places from which you come. But there is a reality there. There's this reality in every church setting or religious setting that I've ever been a part of. And that is, you come on Sunday mornings, and most people, they dress up nice, and families sit together. Oftentimes, families sit together in the same row, and it doesn't matter how much dysfunction is in the family or how toxic some of the family roles are. And you stand up, and you sing songs together. You do some prayers together. You sit down. You hear some good words about God together, and everything's fine. And if it's not fine, you pretend that everything is fine. And for some people, that's just fine. It works. But we wanted to create something different here at Free because I had been so changed by going downstairs. There was this raw power, and they were demonstrating it through weakness. It was actually found in weakness. That was brand new to me. I experienced this profound thing in the basement where these people actually relied on God for their very lives. That was a brand new thing for me. It's like they knew that when you're at the end of yourself, that's when the most compelling thing starts to happen in your life. And that's what recovery is like. You come to the end of yourself. And I know it feels like the end, but that's when the most compelling thing starts to happen. And there's a bit of mystery there, isn't there? You know, some of y'all know that I love the Psalms. We've talked about the Psalms here before. The Psalms, there's 150 of them. In fact, if you were to take a Bible out and open it right to the middle, you would land somewhere in one of these 150 Psalms. They're part of the Old Testament, or what's called the Hebrew Bible. There's 150 of them, and they are an ancient collection of songs, prayers, poems, and the psalmist in Psalm 40 he describes this experience of being pulled out of the pit. And I want to read with you just the first 3 verses of Psalm 40 and ask yourself this question: is this what recovery is like? Check it out. This is his prayer. I waited and waited and waited for God. At last he looked. Finally he listened. He lifted me out of the pit, pulled me from the deep mud. He stood me on a solid rock to make sure I wouldn't slip. He taught me how to sing the latest God song, a praise song to our God. More and more people are seeing this. They enter the mystery, abandoning themselves to God. And isn't that what recovery is like? And see, I love the Psalms because they speak of the human experience in the most honest and freeing ways. Like you read through some of these are like affirming God's goodness and using these beautiful words of praise. And then you read the next one, and the next one is like expressing this deep anguish and heartache, questioning the very existence of God's presence in the world. And the thing I love about the Psalms, they always speak about life the way it really is. They are done pretending. And here, the psalmist is describing this pit. In fact, we see the pit, it's mentioned a few times throughout the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible. The pit is always described as a place of non-existence. It's not a physical death, but it's this social and spiritual death. And in fact, you know the Old Testament's written in Hebrew. The Hebrew word for pit is this word bor, B-O-R, and it's the place where you are silent and forgotten. And isn't the pit exactly what addiction is like? And did y'all catch his language? He's not just waiting in the pit. No, he's waiting and waiting and waiting, and God hears the cries from the pit. And then you get this imagery of being pulled from this muddy pit and set on solid ground, and you're now living into the mystery of new life. And you say, Ryan, why do you always say it's a mystery? Because I don't know why my 22-year-old brother died of this disease of addiction in the pit of addiction. I don't know. I don't know why my uncle died far before it was his time in the disease of addiction, in the pit of addiction. I don't know why so many people die in the pit. So many people that we have loved in this community have died in the pit, and yet you, me, I mean, if you're here tonight, you just took a breath. God, you made it out of the pit. By God's grace, you made it out of the pit, and you know that you had to spend some time in that pit to know the beauty of new life. If you've been there, you know. If you know, you know. And the sweet spot is when you can look back at all of it and see all of it as a gift. And y'all, I never understood this. This one took me years. I never understood how people could sit in front of other people and say, I'm a grateful addict. I'm a grateful alcoholic. Man, for so long I looked at those people and said, dude, your life has fallen apart. You admitted that you hated yourself. You lost so much. Please tell me, what exactly are you grateful for this experience? And today I get it. Today I can proudly declare to you that I am a grateful alcoholic. Anyone heard of Julian of Norwich? Julian of Norwich is a fascinating character from the 14th century. She was a theologian and a mystic, and I highly recommend her work. You can Google her and read about her. In one of her pieces of work, she wrote this sentence, and I think is absolutely fascinating. Check it out. First the fall, and then the recovery from the fall. And both are the mercy of God. Man, y'all, I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems like she was one of us, doesn't it? I mean, she got this profound truth that a beautiful thing happens when you can see all of it as a gift, not just your recovery. Of course, that's the easy gift. That's the gift. But when you can look back and see the time you spent in active addiction, the time in the pit, that was a gift too, because now you truly know the beauty of life. What a gift. Anyone ever heard of the myth of transgression? Oh, this one's absolutely fascinating. When you hear the word myth, don't think of a lie or something that's not true, but think of a greater story that has defined and shaped cultures and people groups along the way. There's this universal truth, a universal theme that's found throughout the ages in every piece of sacred literature. And it's the myth of transgression. This has formed people. You see, the myth of transgression says, check this out, the old must always be revealed as inadequate for the new to be born. Yeah. Think about how many religious people have been clinging to this idea, if I can just follow the rules enough, if I can just follow the religious rules, well, that's what makes me a godly person. That's what makes me a good spiritual person. And at some point that has to prove as inadequate. It doesn't build relationship. The myth of transgression says to truly understand grace and unconditional love and forgiveness, you have to have experiences where you broke the rules, where you strayed from the good path. It wasn't because you tried to break the rules or tried to stray from the path, but you found yourself there. Yeah, the myth of transgression. If you're in recovery, well then, yeah, you spent time deep in the pit. And you also experienced rescue, and both are necessary. But don't miss it. If you had to know weakness in order to know strength. Is it true? You had to sit with your feelings of unworthiness before you could discover your worth. You had to come face to face with the harm you caused in the world before you could see how beautiful an amends was. You had to come to the end of your own source before you began relying upon a greater source. And let's talk about that one for just a moment, can we? Because in recovery, in my experience, you are going to have to find a greater source, a higher power, God of your understanding. And yes, of course, it's all just a gift. But let's also be honest with it. In early recovery, sometimes in later recovery, it can all feel really scary and confusing. I mean, is there anyone here that when it comes to the God stuff, it just feels really scary and confusing? Yeah, and don't let anyone come along to you and say, well, when it comes to new life, when it comes to your recovery, there's no fear involved. Seriously? There's fear involved. I would tell you those people, they've never really been there if that's what they're saying. When I think back to my bottom, of course it was the drink that got me there. But man, you know what was miserable? It was this spiritual bottom. I had nothing left, and I was serving as a pastor, and I was expected to walk with people. I was expected to say good things to people, and I had nothing left, and it was the scariest place I'd ever been in my life. And see, not only did I have to smash the delusion that I could ever drink normally, that's hard enough, but I had to smash the delusion of all these old images of God. And some of these images, man, they took me decades to build, and it was a scary time in my life because I did not know who God was in early recovery. Somewhere along the way, in active addiction, I lost the image of the good, unconditional, loving God. I didn't know, if I'm honest, I didn't know how to find God in early recovery. And it wasn't for a lack of trying. Man, I would try to impress God. I would try to earn enough points, and I found that that didn't work. Then I would try to pray and meditate my way there and do enough good spiritual things, and I found that didn't really work. And then I would try to read enough books about God, and I found that that didn't really work. And y'all, I can't tell you when or exactly how it happened. I can't give you the exact day, but at some point I came to this profound realization that maybe the spiritual stuff, the spiritual journey, the God stuff isn't as hard as I've been making it. Maybe it's not always supposed to feel hard and heavy. It's why I love that line in the big book. You'll hear me refer to it often. It says we do the work, and then what do? We relax and take it easy. You don't always have to work your way to God. Like, do you remember the story we talked about just a few weeks ago? Elijah. This comes from the Old Testament book of 1 Kings. Man, Elijah, he hit this bottom in his life. He was totally done with his own sources. He'd run out of who he is. And he's tired. He's exhausted. He's on the run. He's fearful that people are after him. He's hungry. He's angry. And he holds himself up in this cave on the side of a mountain. And when he does that, this voice says to him, Elijah, I want you to go out to the mountain because God is going to pass you by. Do you remember this story? Elijah goes out to the mouth of the cave, and I imagine he's all happy and giddy, saying, God, I've been looking for you, and now this is my moment. You're going to appear. And the text says, a great, powerful wind came. And Elijah's like, here it is. But God wasn't in the wind. And after the wind came this great earthquake. And Elijah's like, all right, I missed it the first time, but I'm here for it, God. Here I am. Show me. And this earthquake comes. But God wasn't in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a great fire. And I imagine Elijah standing there like this saying, God, I'm open to it. Come on, man. I missed it the first 2 times. Third time's a charm. And this fire comes. God wasn't in the fire. And I imagine at this time, Elijah's like, dude, are you serious? God, I've been looking for you. Where are you? I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and nothing. Anyone ever felt that? And after the fire came a gentle whisper. In the Hebrew, the gentle whisper translates as a thin, blowing sound. Elijah encounters God in that place, in that moment. He was looking for God in all the big, and instead, God reveals God's self in the simple. God is found in the simple. If you've been struggling with the God stuff in your recovery, maybe your greatest prayer tonight is, God, just make it really simple for me. God, think of me as a 5-year-old. That's how simple it needs to be. Why a 5-year-old? Because do you know who doesn't struggle with the God stuff? Our 5-year-old boy, Bricks. He doesn't struggle with the God stuff. You ask him, Bricks, who is God? I don't know. God created me. God loves me. Make it simple. And I'll close with this. Back in February of 2018, just a few months before we started Free, Tammy and I, we were at the Soiled Dove. It's a concert venue place, small, intimate setting. We were seeing Justin Furstenfeld. I didn't know anything about Justin Furstenfeld. I just knew he was the lead singer of a band called Blue October. I knew a little bit about them, but she got me these tickets for Christmas, and so we went in February, and it was Justin Furstenfeld, his guitar, and storytelling. He told stories throughout the evening. I had no clue about his story. The whole evening was about his story of addiction and recovery. Halfway through the show, I look over at Tammy, and I said, did you know he was in recovery? She said, no, I had no clue. I didn't have a clue either. What a gift. At the end of the show, he plays this song. And before the song, he told the story of why he wrote this song. His family did an intervention on him. So he goes off to rehab. He goes to this rehab in Nashville, Tennessee. And the rehab told him, Justin, you can bring 2 things, yourself and a Bible. And he says, perfect. I'm not even a Jesus guy, but I guess I'm going to bring a Bible. He gets to this rehab. When he gets there, for many days, they're saying, Justin, dude, if you want to stay sober, you are going to have to find a higher power. And he talks about how frustrating this journey was because he keeps looking for this higher power. God, where are you? And he can't find his higher power. And there's these young bucks coming alongside of him bragging about how I found my higher power and life is good and you can't find your higher power. 73 days sober. He sets his alarm for 5 a.m. He gets up at 5 a.m. that morning. He grabs his cup of black coffee and his cigarettes because no one can take these 2 things from him. And he goes outside. No one else is awake. He steps out on the front porch and he says, all right, God, we're here to do business. And I want you to make it simple for me. Just prove yourself for me. He says, God, if you're real, if you're really existing in this world, well, catch that bush on fire. Nothing. All right, God, if you're real, I need you to make it simple. Just make that squirrel jump from that tree to that tree, and then I'll know you're real. And nothing. He's getting so frustrated. God, just make it simple. Treat me like I'm a 5-year-old. Make it that easy. And as he's saying this prayer, this bee starts buzzing around his head. Bzz, bzz. And he's swatting at this bee. He says, you stupid bee, man. Can't you see I'm trying to do business and find higher power? I'm out here trying to find God and you won't leave me alone. Bzz, bzz. And he watches this bee. And in the corner of the porch, there's this can that literally says the words bee killer on it. And this bee is flying and bumping against this can. Bzz, 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 bzz. He looks at the bee and he says, you stupid bee. Dude, you've seen so many of your homies go in there and they don't come out. And why are you trying to get in there? And it's that simple. 2 days later, he flies home and his pregnant wife meets him in the airport. She's all waving at him. 2 weeks after that, she gives birth to their first child, a little baby girl. And on that day, he wrote this song. And I think it describes what recovery is like. Here's Fear by Justin Furstenfeld.
Honestly, that song gets me every single time. I told myself I was not going to cry, and I cried, so I'm sorry. It does not help that the next person who's coming up, let me back up. For those of you who are new here tonight, we always have a guest storyteller come up into our living room, and they share a little bit of their experience, strength, and hope on the topic at hand. Our next guest storyteller is very personal to me. Gosh, sorry. Okay, breathe. She, to me, epitomizes why I do recovery. So I know in 12-Step Fellowship, I have the privilege if I get to walk alongside other women through this journey, and they teach me more than I could ever give to them. This next guest storyteller, I met her in January, and she had already had some time. She had worked with a different sponsor, but she wanted to switch for various reasons, and she asked if we could meet, and we sat, we had coffee, and I asked her one question. I said, "Are you willing to go to any length to stay sober?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And I get that answer yes all the time, like people say yes. 2 days later, so the next day we agreed to work together, and then 2 days later, I walk into the 9:30 meeting that we usually go to, and she says, "My dad died this morning." And she showed up. And she didn't know it was on her 8th-month chip that she was getting. And she didn't know what to do. Her whole world just got rocked. And she knew that all she had to do was the next right thing. And so when Ryan knew that this was going to be talking about the 4 pillars of what we do here at Free, I said, please let me do Christa, because she embodies what recovery truly is. She is a woman who I admire so much. So I hope that this evening you get a little taste of what an extraordinary person she is, but she has forever changed my world. So if you would, please be kind and welcome Christa up to the stage. Welcome back. Thanks for not being too scared off. You came back for the 7 p.m. I want to start with, I know a lot of people here, they always assume that us alcoholics are these hot messes who come from these terrible childhoods, and that there was absolutely no other way that we would end up the way that we ended up. But that was not your story. In fact, you had a difficult time saying yes tonight. Can you tell us kind of why you had a hard time saying yes to this story, or just to coming up here, and a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, so just super grateful to be here. And yeah, it was a fear was definitely part of the reason why I didn't necessarily want to say yes. You know, I didn't necessarily think that my story was worth hearing. Nothing crazy happened. I had a great upbringing, beautiful parents, and yeah, sometimes I'm too worried about how people are going to relate to my story versus just sharing and sharing from the heart. And you know, those are kind of wounds that I tended to use alcohol to solve prior. But no, I'm happy to be here, and you know, if I say one thing that can touch one person, that's all I care about. So, I mean, really what brought me here, or kind of my story into recovery, was, like I said, I had a great upbringing. I'm an only child. I went to college, started kind of partying there. But, you know, this disease is pretty progressive, and throughout some of my just hardships in life. My parents got divorced when I was in my early 20s, and that was a little tough, just being an only child and always kind of wanting that sort of connection. And I had that, but you know, it's just a little different when they go their separate ways. But thankfully, they were able to, stay as a team, and it was a very, fine separation. And, from there, I moved out here and got a job, got into a relationship, and I basically just kind of felt the progression of the disease, because over that period of time, I felt like I was losing myself a little bit. I wasn't necessarily finding connection, finding friends. I was isolating myself, which kind of, put me down a road that when even bigger things happened, like I had a miscarriage, and then after that, I feel like, I didn't really do any work around it, but thankfully, about a year after that, I did have a beautiful baby boy, and he's healthy as can be. But even after that, specifically, probably about 10 days after I came home, my drinking took on a new level. And that's when I kind of really, things started falling apart. And not necessarily in the ways of losing jobs or family or a home or going to jail. Sure, there are things that maybe could have happened and maybe should have happened, but thankfully didn't. But yeah, it just got to the point where I had to make a decision to turn my life around.
And I know sometimes when we don't lose everything and it looks kind of fine on the outside, we can hold on a little bit longer saying like, oh, I'm okay, oh, I'm okay. Or perhaps that fear, especially with a young child, because you had to make that tough decision when your child was 10 months old to seek treatment. And I know that's something, I had to do the same thing, leaving my kids to go seek treatment. And I know something that a lot of times there's a lot of shame attached to that, and a lot of like, oh, you're this terrible parent, how dare you do this to your kid, and you're abandoning him, and all these harsh things that even people who say they love us sometimes throw those nasty things at us. How were you able to kind of anchor yourself in with your higher power in order to know that this was the only option you had to be the best mom for him, is to make that hard decision to leave him temporarily to take care of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the biggest thing that scared me, I suppose I got scared into treatment. I got to a point where, my disease got in the way of my work, and that started suffering. And I was able to take, some time off to kind of figure my stuff out, and knew I wasn't going to be able to figure it out in the couple weeks that they gave me. And, all along, I know now, after working this program and understanding my own concept of a higher power, that power was with me throughout that entire time, because it allowed me and kind of gave me the direction of these steps that I took that I didn't know where it was going to lead, but seeking a therapist, and they weren't going to sign off after one therapy session of short-term disability or something. So I went to a family doctor, just for a typical checkup. And that was the first time. And, it definitely wasn't me who was speaking at that time. I definitely had some drinks, more than I would care to admit, in the doctor's office, and was finally honest. And they referred me to a treatment center, and within about a week or so, I'd say, that's where I ended up. And yeah, as much as the thought of leaving my son for 30 days, I guess that thought was so much more reasonable to me than the thought of living the way I was for the next 18, 20 years or however long, for the rest of his life, let alone mine. So being able to show up differently was kind of where that decision was made.
And one of the beautiful things that I have found in recovery is that we don't have to be ashamed of our story any longer, that we can find the beauty in even those pits, and find the beauty even in the fall, and then of course in the journey up. And I know today your life looks very different. You have a wonderful community around you. You are somebody, like I said, who embodies this. Like, you live today a life of recovery that is admirable. You are of service to people. You have a community of people around you. You have friends who show up for you. And that's a stark contrast for what you felt your whole life, especially as an only child. And today you really have your community. Ryan was kind of talking about, like, that recovery isn't always this like flashy event that happens one time. Sometimes it's just the mundane, like, day-to-day life. Can you tell us a little bit of what your recovery means to you today and kind of what you do to maintain it?
Yeah, I mean, recovery means everything today. It is my life. I mean, Carrie had mentioned earlier that I lost my dad in January, and I lost my job a couple weeks before that. So I've had a lot of ups and downs in recovery, but what's been amazing is the way that I've been able to show up for those situations, the way I've been able to react in those situations, because before it would have been a super easy excuse to just go drink, go forget it, and then wake up the next day and feel shitty and then try and forget it again. So, I mean, now recovery, and I know part of Ryan's message was about, us pretending, and that's kind of what led me to drinking in the first place, is pretending to be someone and something that you want to see, not necessarily who I am. And that's one of the most amazing gifts recovery has given me, is I don't have to pretend anymore. I can be who I am. I can own my past. Yeah, I'm not proud of a lot of things that I've done, but I'm also putting in the work and taking the steps to be a different person and be who my higher power wants me to be. And, through my program and the work that I do, I understand that really all that is how I react to life. I'm sure a lot of us have heard that, life sucks better sober, and that's what I've found. It's still going to happen. Life stuff still happens. It still goes around, but it's just the way that we can react and show up, not just for ourselves, but for other people as well. Because before, it was all about me. I didn't ever ask necessarily how other people were doing or how I could be of service to them or anything of that sort. But, having that perspective change and, just being able to live a completely different life, even while owning my past.
And I know there's a lot of people out there still struggling, whether they're here tonight or watching us online, who don't know where to even begin. They may think that, like, oh, I'm not that bad. I don't have that DUI yet. I'm not that bad. I still have my family still. And there's all these yets that are still coming. Can you tell us about the elevator and why it was such an impactful story for you and how you help others by reminding them?
Yeah, so I heard in like a meeting or in the rooms from some people that I know, this analogy of like when you're in this disease or addiction or just in this place where you're just not really sure, where you're going, and this elevator that we're on, it's only going down, but you have the opportunity to really get off, whenever you want. Right? Whenever you're ready to ask for help, this community is here, and as hard as it might be to, have this idea in your head that I'm not the homeless person underneath the bridge, I have my family, I have a job, you don't need to wait for those things, because it's only it's a matter of when it happens, not if it happens. And I'm just so grateful that, you know, my higher power, whatever that is, you know, that's still a concept that I figure out every day. It's not the same for me. It was something that I struggled with, and not that I struggle with it now, but it's, you know, I've really found that in the rooms, in this community, and, you know, really my higher power shows up within the connections I've made. So, you know, that idea of getting off, like, whenever you can, otherwise it's just gonna continue going down. You can wait, but I just know for myself, was really grateful and thankful that I got off when I did.
And thank you so much for joining us. And I'm just so grateful that your story today gets to be something that helps other women out there, that helps, you know, helps our community, that it doesn't have to be so dramatic, or, you know, your family can look like whatever it looks like and you still can find yourself in this disease. Are you still going to stick around after? Thank you so much for joining us. If you guys have questions, if you want to get to know Christa, she's here most Saturdays. She's a pivotal person, not only in my personal life, but in this community. So can you please give it up for Christa? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christa. Thank you, Carrie. Christa, I'm so glad you're part of this community. She's not only here on Saturday night, she's here like every time I'm here. Christa, she lives here. You didn't know that? No, that is true. It's for recovery. So glad you're part of this community. Thank you for stepping into this tonight, too, by the way. Stepping into fear. We get to do that in recovery. Carrie reminds me this all the time. All right, y'all. Hey, the way we close things down on a Saturday night is very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations, but we close with heartaches. Maybe you've been carrying a burden this week, and you haven't told anyone. You're trying to carry this thing on your own. You're just trying to push your way through it, but you're kind of in this deep pit, or maybe it's a really shallow pit and it seems little. There is no burden too big or too little. Sometimes there's just a lot of power in putting words, articulating this thing, and you find out you have a community of people. You don't have to walk it alone. You have a God who hears the cries. So we take 3 minutes for this. Again, if you're online, just drop your heartache in the YouTube comments, the Facebook comments, whatever platform you're joining us from. Darren will have a mic on this side for those of you in-house. And Darren, 2 Darrens tonight. I love it. The Darrens have the mics. So raise up your hand and we'll take 3 minutes. Give us the heartache. This time is yours.
Just want to say I'm glad this community's here. Man, I've been struggling forever and trying to make my way back. We came down from the Springs. I've been bothering her for a while to come back down here. I did rehab here in Aurora or whatever it is a while back, and within 2 days after I was out of here, I was drinking and partying again. Yeah, did one before that. I got kicked out of that one. And then did another one down in Pueblo for 3 weeks. I made it through that one, and about a week later I was doing that thing. But I just know this community is where I belong some kind of way. It's hard though because I don't fit. But that's the story of my life anyway. I'm glad you're here, man. And I really, really, really appreciate your service. I came expectant and I received.
Well, dude, I'm glad you came up all the way from the Springs. Well, you're welcome here anytime. And prayers for you on this journey of recovery, dude. It's worth it. Absolutely worth it.
I'm Mac. It's kind of crazy that you played that song tonight because my dad's the world's biggest Justin Furstenfeld fan that I know of at least, and he was just in the hospital for high blood pressure. He needs to see a therapist, and he refuses to, so I'm just kind of worried about him.
All right. Well, prayers for your dad tonight, man. Thanks for sharing that with us, Matt. We're lifting him up. Mac, right? You said Mac. Yeah.
I'd like to say, ask for prayers for a family that's really close to me are going through some medical difficulties, and pray for their strength. And my boy Jeremiah, who's going through something real tough right now, got a lot on his shoulders. So prayers to him, strength to him, strength to them. Amen.
All right, lifting them all up. Thank you for sharing that with us. Prayers for them.
I want to pray for Brenda. She's still in the addiction. And just pray for her sobriety.
All right. Lifting up Brenda tonight.
I just want to pray for my sister. She's trying to get her life together, and she's still kind of not doing so well. So
yeah.
Just want prayers for her because she just doesn't answer any of our reach outs to her or any of that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, we know what that's like, don't we? So we're going to prayers for your sister and prayers for you and your family.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, I'm Sai. I just want to send some prayers to my mom. She went in for a doctor's appointment this last week, and she was diagnosed with vestibular neuritis, which is severe sudden attacks of vertigo. And at her age, it's kind of scary. So just send some prayers and some good feelings that way.
Yeah. Prayers for your mom, brother. Glad you're here. Thank you to the Darrens. Darren, you want to join me up here, dude? Yes, you. Looking around like this. Is there another Darren here? Well, thank you to both. There are several Darrens here. Thank you to both of them. It's always good to see you, man.
Always good to see you.
You want to take the first one?
I would love to.
Okay.
Here, get on the same level. as
Yeah,
you.
the same level, man. You don't gotta try to be above me, you know. All right.
All right, Latoya, I would like to send a prayer to my loved ones, especially to Dominic Bridewell. Prayers are with you, Latoya.
All right. Kathy says, prayers for my grandson, Raven, who is struggling. All right, Kathy, we're going to pray for your grandson, Raven, who is struggling. Glad you're with us tonight. Glad you're part of the community. And that's all we have, Darren. We each got one. How about that?
There we go.
All right, dude. Thanks for being up here with me. Oh, well, if you have been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, which is our mission here, well, I let you all know each and every week that we do rely upon your generosity. It's how we are able to do what we do. It's how we keep the thing going in this community. And I always like to take the opportunity to say thank you to you. I know many of you who have made giving a practice in your life. You've made it a spiritual practice in your life. You've done something crazy like prayed through this thing. And some of you have made it a sacrificial practice in your life. It actually makes a difference in a pocketbook. I get all that. And that's why I seriously want to say thank you to you. It truly makes a difference here. And if you'd like to donate to Free, there's a few different ways to do it. You can download the app. It's free recovery community. All of our content, guest storytellers are on there. There's a giving button on there. You can give one time, or you can set up a weekly giving or monthly giving, however you want to do it. We're grateful for all of it. You can do the exact same thing on the website, freerecoverycommunity.com. They have a giving button there. We have a giving button there. And there is the giving kiosk, one beside these doors, one just outside these doors. They cleverly say giving on them for those of you that do cash and checks type people. And I love to tell you about the dip jar. It hangs out just outside these doors on the little round black table. It's a little machine about this big. You take your credit card and you dip it in. You dip it out. It's set at $20, so you can't give more, you can't give less. When you take it out, it lights up and you get to feel good about your giving. It's kind of fun to do. Check it out on your way out if that calls to you. And really, thank you all for being a part of this. It makes a huge difference in this community. And to so many of you online people who join in this, and you've never been here. Man, it's just such a cool feeling we get to experience each week to know you're part of that and truly part of this community, so thank you. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yeah, I think we should. Y'all just open up the hands. It's a simple sign of openness. It's not magical. It doesn't make you any more spiritual or godly. It's just a simple way maybe of saying tonight, God, I'm open to you always moving in simple ways. And maybe I've missed it because I've been looking for you in all those big places and the big events, and you're always breathing life through us and in us and all around us. So God, help us not miss you this week. Let us pay attention. If you don't know the Serenity Prayer, well, it's a beautiful one and it's on your screen. We'll pray it together. It goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Grace and peace to you. See you all next time.